This is a grade 2 LSDA storeroom function lever. This lever will always be locked on the outside unless you utilize a key. And when you use the key, all it will do is simply retract this latch, and that's it. It does always, of course, give you free egress, so you'll always be able to get out. You just simply cannot get in unless you have a key. And if you purchase one of these from lockpeddler.com, you're going to need to know how to take one off and put one back on. And I'm going to show you how to do that step by step. Okay, step 1, you're going to push a pin and depress the retaining pin and then pull the handle at the same time. I'm going to show you how to do that one more time. Push in and pull, and that will get the lever off. So that's step 1. Now I'm going to show you step 2. Okay, step 2 is pretty easy. These plates can sometimes be a little difficult to get off. You want to get a good grasp on it and turn to the left, counterclockwise, and then just pull it off. And I'm going to show you how this actually goes on. You can see here there's a little divot, and there's another one there. And those little depressions actually fit into this channel right here. So when you put it on, it fits into that channel, and then you rotate it until it clicks. I'm not going to make it click this time, but until you get it to click, and then of course that'll keep that plate from coming off. But that is step 2. Let's move on to step 3. Okay, step 3. We're going to remove this screw and this screw, which hold this bevel plate on. Word to the wise, make sure you hang on to these screws, and when you are installing them, these are very hard to find, so make sure you don't lose them. And now you're just going to take this aside and place it wherever you'd like. And now we're going to move on to our next step. Okay, step 4, we're going to remove this screw and this screw. And that'll allow us to actually take this whole plate off and just set that aside. Now our next step. Okay, step 5 is very easy. You just pull. Lever will come out just like that. And now we can move on to our next step, which is removing this latch. Step 6, remove the latch. Alright, now I'll show you how to reinstall. Okay, step 1 of reinstall, you're going to put our latch in. And you need to determine which direction this latch is going to need to go. If you're of course closing the door this way, then of course the latch is going to need to go in from that direction. And if you're closing the door this way, then of course this latch is going to need to face the direction of the door frame. So we're going to go ahead and secure this real fast with our 2 screws. Now we'll move on to step 2. Okay, step 2. You want to pay close attention to this little lip here, this little lip here, and then these 2 lips here. Those actually are part of this latch assembly, and they have to line up exactly correct or the lock will not function correctly. So we're going to go ahead and put our lock body in, making sure that all those lips, as we call them, fit into place. And now we'll move on to an explanation on how to alter the depth on a lever, because it looks like this one is going to be a little too off to work correctly. Okay, this is going to be a real quick video on how to adjust the depth on one of these levers. And this is just a flat piece of steel, and when you run a flat piece of steel over the door, and if you make contact with one of these or one of these, what that's essentially telling you is the actual thickness of this door or this piece of door is not quite as thick as it needs to be for this lever to be installed correctly. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to adjust the depth of this lever so it fits more like that. That way there's nothing from here touching the inside escutcheon, because if it touches the inside escutcheon, this will never function correctly. So I'm going to show you how to do that real fast. Okay, so if you've installed your lever on your door and you can tell that the door thickness is just not going to do it, and it's just not a thick enough door for the lever to naturally function correctly, you're going to need to, of course, know how to adjust that depth within the door, and I'm going to show you how to do that. First step, you got to put the key in the cylinder itself. This is, of course, the outside lever, and you're going to push this pin and pull the lever as that pin is actually depressed, and pull the whole assembly off in your hand. That's first step. Second step. Okay, step 2. Just simply remove this escutcheon and set it aside, and then you have a plate here. Now this plate rotates, and if you want to put it on a door, if you want to put this lock on a door that is thick, you want to spin it counterclockwise, and that controls how close or how far it is away from the other surface of that door. And in this case, since it is such a thin door, we're going to spin it all the way, and then we're going to back it out just a little bit because it has to line up with that hole on the other side. If it's like this, it just won't work. So make sure that it lines up perfectly with that hole. Now we're going to reinstall that plate. Now when you reinstall the plate, this is a spring pin. That spring pin has to go back on the same side as this valley. Never on the same side as this pin. And once you get that on correctly, we can put our lever back on. Now to put the lever back on, you want to make sure that the pin is facing this way towards you and the handle is facing away from you. Just simply place the lever on. You have to turn the key and then push. Give it a good firm push. Now check for operation, and now we're going to install this on our unusually thin door, or our display, which is of course a replica of where we would install one of these. Okay, step 2. You want to pay very close attention to this little lip here, and then this lip here, and this one as well. And this is how it operates. The mechanism will basically pull this part back. And we're just going to go ahead and install our lock body and make sure everything lines up with the appropriate lip. And now it is firmly installed, just like that. We'll move on to step 3. Step 3. You have a hole here and a hole here. Make sure both of those are vertical of each other. Hold the plate on the door, and you want to finger tighten these screws just a couple revolutions. And I choose to use an impact driver. It just makes it quick. And now we'll move on to our next step. Okay, step 4. Now this is a little spring pin. This has to chase this valley here. So when you put that on, just make note of that. And we're going to secure that with 2 screws. One at the top and one at the bottom. And now we'll move on to our next step. Okay, step 5. We're going to install our plate, and as you can see, there are little dimples here. And you want to make sure that those dimples fit into the appropriate valley, which is here. So we're going to fit that directly into that little valley, and now we're going to give it a good firm turn until it clicks, just like it did. Now we'll move on to our next step. Okay, step 6. There's a little pin right here. That's the same pin that you depress in order to get the lever off. And of course there's the little hole. You want to make sure that that lines up with that pin, and then just give it a little push. Give it a tug to make sure it doesn't come off, and then test for operation. So you can always get out. You'll have to have a key to get in. That is your storeroom function lever. So when you purchase it from lockpeddler.com, that's LOCKPEDDLER.com, you'll know how to take one off and put it on. Thanks for listening.